Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. I'm here at Circular Quay on this beautiful hump day, Wednesday, waiting for my train to head to work, and I thought I'd just take this opportunity. I haven't been down to Circular Quay for quite a while now, well over 3 months whilst we've been in lockdown, and I thought I'd run us through another book summary, and today I've chosen a book entitled The Social Contract by Jacques Rousseau, an author from 1762. So a text that has been around for a while, but freedom has been a sort of principle that has always been part of our challenge and things that people have fought for over the years, and especially now with what the world is going through in terms of the turmoil of COVID-19. It's probably good just to touch on some of the points that this book elucidates. So the author here makes a point where he suggests that man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. So what we'll do is we'll just go through some of the theory that this author has come up with. And the theory of democracy, according to the author, and authority of the state usually equates and reflects, or should reflect, the will of the people. And it's not the will of the minority I should say. It's not the will of a small group. It's the will of the majority. And that's what democracy is designed to reflect. Because democracy is popular choice. Democracy is the rule of the many, not the rule of a small group. It's not the rule of a minority. It's not the the tail wagging the dog, but it's the majority working together for the collective good. But even though we have democracy, even though we have popular choice that elects people to power, what we've noticed, and what we do notice, is that the power still is in the hands of a few elected officials who may make up the balance of power within politics, within Parliament, given that there is a split, a divide in society, and you may have Liberal and Labor holding seats, but the balance of power usually is with certain independents. And the other thing about democracy that the author talks about, which is pretty interesting, is that people are happy to sit on the sidelines and not be involved in political life as long as their basic needs are covered. And you see this in advanced democracies like Australia, America, England, where the same old parties seem to continue to hold power and to govern year after year, decade after decade. But the reason why they still are in power is that they are fulfilling the basic needs of the majority of society, and people continue to shop there, so to speak, and to vote for the same parties. And then the author starts to talk about a few concepts here in terms of legitimacy. A state is only legitimate when its citizens freely accept to live under the rules and policies that come with it. So what we've experienced lately with COVID is that we've had health orders, we've had the government make some very tough decisions which impact families, individuals, businesses, But those tough decisions are being echoed and reflected throughout the world. It's just not Australia, it's just not New South Wales that are locking down or have had to lock down, but it's countries throughout the world, because this pandemic is indeed a pandemic, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that few generations get to experience. So it's important to put things into perspective and to understand that what we're experiencing at the moment is something very, very different, something very, very unique, and something that has required the government to take the upper hand and to do whatever they had to do in order to save lives, save the health system, save the economy, and to a certain extent get us out of trouble as quickly as possible and as painlessly as possible over the longer term. Because if the government did nothing, if we had no vaccines and we let this virus, this pandemic rip, and we mustn't forget that COVID-19 is indeed the most infectious disease that the world has ever seen, because it spreads very, very quickly, and it doesn't need a long time to incubate, and it infects 6 or 7 people each time, and it cycles every 3 or 4 days or 5 days, I think it is. So unlike smallpox, which is very contagious, COVID-19 is much more contagious and can cause many more challenges to people's health. So getting back to the legitimacy of the state, the author here says that citizens are still not completely free, even though we live in democracy. So, and the reason for that is that we have laws. There are laws which govern the way we behave, the way we engage, and the way we live. And those laws are meant to keep us civilized and to help us live in harmony. So those laws aren't designed to cause problems or to make us unhappy, but when it's seen from a broader perspective, they're there to help us continue to be civilized, to be able to work together, to tolerate each other, and to live in harmony. But the state's power is dependent on people submitting freely to those laws and that authority. And only recently we've seen a small group of recalcitrants who have been protesting, even though the protests are illegal and can cause the freedoms of the majority to take longer to come to fruition. There are people who haven't got the patience, can't see the bigger picture, or don't trust authority and the government for various reasons. But this has caused problems, especially in Victoria, with Dan Andrews having protests going on for days now, which has caused the spike, or some may argue has caused the spike in COVID cases to increase. And we're at a point now where Victoria has more COVID cases than New South Wales. So the next formal point that comes out of this book is where the author talks about a legitimate state is characterised by the common will of the people. So authority and the state is only legitimate if it represents the will of the majority. And that will of the majority, according to the author, is a social contract where the power and the authority must serve the majority of people and keep them happy, I guess, so to speak, and to serve the majority's best interests. A legitimate state exists and is governed by laws that benefit everyone by preserving their rights, freedoms and their security as citizens and civilians. And it's aimed to preserve, according to the author, to preserve the collective good. And this is the point that the Premier, the Prime Minister, the Health Minister, the police officers, the police ministers, our religious and spiritual leaders keep on reminding us that the reason why we do what we do is to preserve the common good, the collective good. And the reason why we're enticed and invited to get vaccinated is because it not only protects ourselves, but it helps protect others. It helps reduce the spread of the virus. And it has a common benefit that some don't see. So by enforcing the general will of the people and that common good is what gives the government, the authority, legitimacy. And the last point on this from this author is that popular assemblies are a good way to express the general will. So it's important that the sovereign state and the government are split, because in some countries where there is a sovereign head of government, that sovereignty is probably, according to the author here, required to determine the law, and the government's responsibility is for the application of the law and the principles. So the good thing about democracy, or the aim of democracy, or the benefits of democracy, is that people are able to constantly evaluate their electives and monitor the objectives that are of interest to the majority. And through collective meetings, through collective voting, then people can determine what is important for the well-being of the state according to that majority. But the author here also says that it's important for people to be active in political life and to participate in government in order to bring a balance and to ensure that the collective good is protected and continued into the future. And I think that's probably where I can end this book summary, because I do need to hop on the train. I've had a few trains go through which I've missed, but I start today a little bit later. I start at 7 o'clock. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club from the beautiful Circular Quay station on this wonderful spring day. There's a little bit of a breeze, a little bit of a cloud. The temperature is mild, and it's been an interesting topic that we've covered. The book summary on a book called The Social Contract. So it's only a few more weeks, a couple of more weeks to go before the vaccinated get to get certain freedoms. It's going to be interesting because I don't think that the very small recalcitrant group of anti-vaxxers, of anti-everythings, are going to wait to the 1st of December in order to do what they normally do. But time will tell. But I think Australia is well on track at being one of the most vaccinated countries in the world, which makes me very proud, because we got off to a slow start. Even I had doubts that we'd get to the 80% or the 70%, given the amount of voice that the anti-vaxxers had at the beginning. and their level of influence. But thank God to the persistence of the government and the authorities who kept on reminding us with the science and with the health orders and just with using common sense that being vaccinated is for the common good, and there is a rainbow and a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're almost there. So hopefully life will get back to a normal, and this precinct down here at the city will be awash with tourists, with people. There'll be ships there at the port, at the international passenger terminal, and Australia will get back to where it was with international students and a life which only Australia can guarantee for its population. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of the day, and I look forward to coming to you again with another summary from another location and with a better outcome, I guess, for all Australians. Take care, and we'll chat again. Bye for now.